I don't think you'll ever find a perfect way of assessing how primary schools are performing. But you should never make the perfect the enemy of the good. And I critically think that league tables, much vilified as they are, do serve a particular purpose. And the teachers who've impressed me most when it comes to the argument about league tables have been those primary heads, often in disadvantaged areas, whose schools in the past, simply because of where they are, would have been written off as sink schools. Poorer kids went there. They were on the wrong side of the tracks. But these schools have demonstrated, through Key Stage 2 tests, through objective examinations, that their pupils are outperforming, not just expectations, but outperforming other schools which appear to have much more favourable intakes. And that prompts a question in my mind. If these schools are doing so well, shouldn't we celebrate and learn from them? And if there are other schools that are doing less well, with apparently more favourable intakes, shouldn't we try to, at the very least, nudge those leading those schools, or those responsible for those schools, to consider what they might learn from those who are most successful? So, in that sense, I do believe that Key Stage 2 tests do serve a very, very useful purpose. Now, Ed has acknowledged that the current system isn't perfect. And I believe, he may want to clarify in a moment, I believe that he has opened the door to a greater degree of teacher assessment. So certainly we could have a situation with English and maths similar to the one that we have at science, so that if Ed is convinced that teacher assessment becomes more and more robust and more effective, we could move to a situation where we don't have all tests externally marked, we just have a sample marked as part of a national moderation exercise. I hope I'm not being unfair to Ed in characterising the door that he's left open. I'm not planning to attack that, I just wanted to sort of stress that that's where you've allowed that policy might go. Is that fair?
Well, what's happened is the expert group said that we couldn't rely currently on teacher assessment to play that role. And, but what we're doing is looking at ways in which we could strengthen teacher assessment. But we aren't there yet. And, you know, I'm certainly not, I mean, the thing I said was objective and external. I think that's important. My criticism was the secondary school teacher marking the local primaries SATs. That's the thing where I just sort of feel, you know, every primary school head would say, well, you know, I'm going to have to take, you know, action on that. They would think it was not fair because they wouldn't judge the objectivity of that to be fair.
I take Ed's point, and I was just curious because I don't want to labour the point, but I think that Ed has left the door open to all tests at Key Stage 2, in due course being teacher assessed. I think that's fair, and there would be national sampling and moderation. If I'm being unfair, at some stage in the future, do let me know.
Well, I haven't shut that door.
Okay.
I said the system's not set in stone, but we aren't there yet, and I don't think we should give the impression that we can do something quickly when we can't. I actually agree with David. I think the most important thing is how the test results are used, and you said you wanted to be fairer to the school which does well with a more disadvantaged start and background in terms of their raw results, rather than the school which starts from a stronger position in terms of, you know, the advantage of the pupils, but does less well with their results. School league tables cannot give that fairness because, by definition, they simply rank on attainment. And that's why, as a parent, you know what it's like. You go onto websites and you have to yourself try and understand where your school really fits, given your judgment of the kind of pupils going there. The whole point of the report card is to try and provide that context and say, schools which are making real progress for the children over the course of the years should be given greater credit in the report card, and those schools which actually kind of coast along with children who start stronger but don't make progress should be seen in that light. You can't do that in league tables.
Can I just clarify that at the moment the department's own figures show that the existing teacher assessment is actually, if anything, slightly tougher and slightly more rigorous than the external assessment, and probably in many cases a hell of a lot better quality?
I think, I mean, that cuts both ways. One of the interesting things about the Key Stage 1 teacher assessment is quite often schools predict the next year they're going to have lower results than the current year. And, you know, there's a range of different factors going on there, and that might be a tougher assessment, or it might not be a tougher assessment. It might just be lower expectations. But look, what I've said is, next year we will publish, alongside the Key Stage 2 tests, also the teacher assessment data for every school. And that will give us for the first time, a real sense of that comparability, and then we'll see. And the truth is, teacher assessment only really starts to bite when it's actually used for accountability purposes. Until then, it doesn't really have the same sort of external impact.
And I hope that you agree, and I want to be fair to Ed, and Ed has given us a helpful and detailed answer. The reason why I did that is I think that it's a debate that the TES has led, that almost all professionals are interested in, and I think that there's a duty on all of us to try to engage with the unhappiness that professionals feel, while still being clear about what our own positions are. And that's why I floated the idea of possibly shifting Key Stage 2 tests from Year 6 to Year 7. It struck me that one of the principal concerns, and Ed reflected this in the letter that he sent to schools, was that there was too much teaching to the test. It also struck me that there was some unwelcome duplication, and that many secondaries had their own sets of tests right at the very beginning of Year 7, which they administered themselves for their own purpose. And I feared that there may be too much duplication. And now I put forward that idea because I wanted to have that debate. I was flattered when Stuart Sutherland, whom Ed asked to look at SATs when there was something went wrong a couple of years ago, endorsed our proposals and said that he thought they were a step forward for accountability, but I'm reflecting on the many points that others have made here. The other thing that I wanted to stress was just with respect to the school report card, that Ed is consulting at the moment on what that report card might include as well. And there are some areas which I fear may be fuzzy rather than sharper in terms of accountability, but I know, as Ed explains, what it is that will go up to make the report card. That will be clearer in all our minds.
Can I just ask one point of Michael on that, because you raised a number of questions about other parties' policies. Are you leaving open yourself the possibility of internal assessment being used for the Key Stage 2 tests or their successors?
I'm less keen than I think Ed is on the idea of moving towards teacher assessment. I'm keener on having the papers marked by individuals outside the school. But to be fair to Ed, he has allowed for the fact that he does not want to move to teacher assessment unless he can be confident that it's more rigorous. I have concerns, but I'm looking at how the debate is moving, and I'm looking at Ed's position. I just wanted to answer Jackie's point.
One very small point. Just on this particular point, the debate about whether you have the tests at the end of Year 6 or the beginning of Year 7 is a legitimate one. And, I think we've already pushed back the date of the tests. We could push them back further. The place where I think the profession has disagreed with you was that the idea that the teacher assessment would be done by the secondary school teachers in that school, and what you've then said is they would mark the test in Year 7, and we would then sort of piece back the results. So you say, well, in my class I've got 30 children, 10 of them went to that primary school, 10 went to that primary school, 10 went to that primary school, pass the results back, and you then reconstruct league tables for primary schools based upon tests marked by teachers in the local secondary school. That seems to me to be really unfair, and it is not the kind of teacher assessment I'm talking about at all.
No, I know.
And is that part of your proposal? Are you still sticking with that the local secondary school teachers would mark the tests?
I know your concern. My view is that it's important that the tests are not marked by those who are teaching the children at that time. So, in other words, the model of teacher assessment that you favour, I'm less keen on, but the critical point that I made at the time is that we have duplication, and I would like to see those tests marked by others. When tests are marked, when Key Stage 2 tests are marked, they are marked by teachers. That's the critical thing, but those not in that school. Anyway.
Michael, this is incredibly frustrating. Michael, you said local secondary school teachers would mark the primary school tests and then piece them back to form league tables. That's what you said. Is that still your policy? Because we need to know, going into the election, teachers need to know, are you sticking with what you said, or have you changed your mind?
But the reason why I laboured my questions to you, Ed, is because you have left the door open to change. You've recognised that when it comes, for example, to the school report card, that there are a variety of areas where we're not clear about whether or not they will count for accountability. My view is that there is a strong case, and it's Lord Sutherland's view as well, for having the tests marked in Year 7, not Year 6, and for having them marked by people who are not the teachers in the primary school. As to who should do it...
Hold on a second. I think
well, no, I never said that...
Let's move on a bit, because we've got...